Hi readers, me here, Lee. Welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads. And today I am doing something a little bit different. Floss over at the Grape Jelly Library tagged me in an In Your Wildest Dreams tag. I've never done one of these before, so bear with me. The tag was created by Heather Reads, and I was tagged by Floss. So there are 5 prompts on this, and they're all book related, of course. So prompt number 1 is your fantasy time and place to read a book. And I have been thinking about this since Floss tagged me, and I think I would want something kind of out of a Hallmark Christmas movie. I would like a cabin with snow falling and on the ground, and be on a couch with a blankie and in front of a roaring fire and either a coffee or a hot chocolate to drink, maybe even some tea. And that would be the perfect place in fantasy. In reality, my favorite place to read is on my screened-in back porch on a spring or fall day when the humidity is low and it's warm enough to be comfortable outside, don't need a sweater, but the humidity is low and there's a cool breeze. And I do get to achieve that in the spring and the fall sometimes, but now it's summer, and so I go out, I'll read a little bit, and then I have to come right back in because it's sweating. In the wintertime, it rarely snows where I live, but it does get cold enough where I can sit in front of a fire, and I do that, and that is my favorite place in reality to read in the wintertime, even if sadly it's not snowing. Here's hoping for a snow day next year. Okay, the next prompt is your fantasy library, and when I read that one, I did not think about a library that you go to and check out books from, because I have a problem. I need to keep things. And also, when I was a child, I had a problem returning books on times because I'd get a ton and then I wouldn't be able to go through them all in the time that I had. So I immediately went to a personal library. Now, I am probably, again, as close as I'm going to get to having my fantasy library. When I bought this house, it's got a long upstairs that one of the selling points, not for me, was that you could rent out the upstairs as an Airbnb, which I'm not going to do that. But it was perfect for all the bookshelves that I had at the time, and the walls are lined with bookshelves. And one day I might take you on a tour of that. I've got to clean it up a bit, but anywho. So that's as close as I'll ever get to my fantasy library. In an actual fantasy, I picture kind of like a Victorian house with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves with a ladder that you can roll along, and a fireplace in there. It's going to have to be huge, maybe 2-story. Tall ceilings, a couch in the middle where you can read books in front of the fire in your library, and then a large picture window that lets in plenty of light so you don't need overhead lighting. The next one is one I hadn't thought much about, and that was if you were going to open a bookshop. What would you call it? No clue. No clue. I hadn't even thought about opening a bookshop because that would be a problem with me for buying my own product. So, but if in a fantasy world, I have no idea what I'd call it. Would it sell new or secondhand books? Both, I think. I love a used bookstore, and I can't find good ones much anymore. There is one in our town that's really good. I go from time to time. I actually need to go and do an unhaul and pick up some books from there. But I would also seek out like obscure paperbacks from the 70s and 80s, and kind of get that feel of what the bookstores used to mean to me, or used to make me feel. I would have I would want it to be large enough yet still feel homey, so there would be shelves, but then there would be little reading nooks. And we would sell drinks. Drinks being, oh, sorry. One time I went to a champagne bar that was in a bookshop. That was fabulous. I don't think I'd want to have to pay for a liquor license or anything, so I would sell probably teas and coffee. Because that, and maybe some like finger sandwiches. Like, think an afternoon tea, an English afternoon tea. We would do teas and finger sandwiches. It wouldn't even matter if you got any of the used books messy. But little reading nooks, couches, and rocking chairs, and that kind of stuff. And now I want to open a bookshop. Just kidding. Number 4 was name a person who is not a booktuber you could have a good conversation about books with. 2 people. One is my sister, who I've been talking about books with my entire life. And the other person is a colleague who I work with named Katie, and we've recently followed each other on Goodreads, and we've started having conversations about books that we read, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I think we could have a real good face-to-face conversation at some point about books. Finally, I wish I could make this one come true. If someone gave you $1 million, but you could only use it for book or book-related items, what would you do? Number 1, I would have a carpenter come in and build bookshelves in my upstairs, floor to ceiling, so I could get rid of the bookshelves that I have and actually probably house more books. I would do that throughout my upstairs, possibly even including the Peloton room, but it would go floor to ceiling. So that's the first thing. I would take the remainder of that money, and what I'd like to do is create an organization that gets books into the hands of those who need them, who can't afford them. Not just young people, young, middle, old, everybody who wants to read. And I would also do a literacy promotion. That's not really well thought out because no one's offered me $1 million yet. If anybody would like to offer me $1 million to achieve my dream and help others achieve theirs, I'm here. Anywho, just kidding. So this was my first time doing a tag. It was a little awkward for me. I'm used to kind of riffing on what books I just got or doing reviews. But this was fun. I loved thinking about my fantasy time and place to read a book. I love thinking about my library. I even had a good time thinking about a bookshop, what kind of bookshop I'd like to see. Because, sorry, let me just add on to that. I would want a bookshop to be welcoming, would want you to sit and stay a while, because the longer you stay, the more books you buy. And even in our Barnes & Nobles, some Barnes & Nobles have like cushy chairs and couches. Ours doesn't. It has some hard chairs, but the more people sit and stay, the more they're going to buy, in my opinion. Well, in my case, for sure. If I'm going to stay there longer, I will buy more. Anywho, like I said, that's a first. I am still relatively new to YouTube, so I am unsure of tagging etiquette, and I don't know a lot of other booktubers yet. I've started following some, and some have followed me back, but I'm still kind of new to the community. So I'm not going to tag anybody in this outside of Floss, who tagged me. But I would like to do more of these in the future. That's it for me. Next video I will post tomorrow will be my regular weekend books, because of course I bought some books this week. Happy reading!